Welcome to Audio Abet, your gateway to the fascinating world of data science and machine learning. Whether you're a seasoned tech enthusiast, a curious beginner, or someone exploring the impact of AI in everyday life, this is the podcast for you. Join us as we dive deep into groundbreaking technologies, share insights from industry leaders, and simplify the complex concepts shaping the future of innovation.
All right, everyone, get ready, because today we are going deep on generative AI.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about these incredible models like GPT and DALL-E,
Right.
the ones that are just completely changing things.
Yeah, they really are everywhere now.
From art studios to research labs, and you've been sharing some really fascinating articles and reports on this, especially some really interesting stuff about what's happening with generative AI here in India.
Yeah, well, it's a really fast-moving field, and what I find so interesting is how it's really blurring the lines between human and machine creativity,
Right, yeah, before we kind of get lost in this AI art gallery of the future,
Okay.
let's just break it down for a second for someone who's maybe just starting to understand this whole thing.
Yeah.
How would you explain what generative AI is?
Well, I think a good way to think about it is imagine you give a computer just this huge box of Legos, and you give it instructions on how to put them together. Generative AI is kind of like that computer figuring out how to build entirely new structures with those Legos based on what it learned from the instructions.
So it's not just copying what it's already seen.
Right.
It's actually coming up with new things.
Exactly. It's like it's trained on these massive data sets, text, images, code, you name it. And it learns from all of that and then generates this brand new content.
Wow.
That follows the same patterns, but with its own, little twist.
Okay, yeah. I'm starting to see the building blocks here, but there are different kinds of generative AI, right?
Yeah.
Like GPT is for text, DLE is for images.
You got it. So we can kind of think about them in terms of how many senses they have.
Yeah.
So you've got these foundation models.
Right.
Those are kind of like the all-rounders. They can handle different kinds of data like text or code or images.
Okay.
And then you've got unimodal models. Those are the specialists.
Wow.
They focus on one type of data like GPT-3 with text.
Okay.
And then there are the multimodal models.
Okay.
These are like the real showstoppers.
Yeah.
They can work with multiple types of data. So like DALL-E that can make images from text descriptions.
Multimodal, that's where it gets really interesting. It's like the AI version of like a polymath or something.
Totally.
So speaking of which, let's talk about the real world impact.
Okay.
I was reading about how these models are revolutionizing so many things.
They really are.
From healthcare to entertainment. I mean, take healthcare, for example.
Yeah.
Imagine if AI could analyze scans and find these tiny anomalies that maybe even a trained radiologist could miss.
It's already happening.
It is.
There are tools like Viz.ai that are helping doctors diagnose strokes way faster and more accurately.
Wow.
And that can save crucial time in those like really critical moments.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's literally life-saving.
Right.
So what about other areas, what's happening here in India with generative AI?
Well, you mentioned that article about Kisan GPT. It's a really cool example of how this technology can be used for really specific local challenges. It's basically a chatbot that uses a model similar to ChatGPT to give agricultural advice to farmers.
Wow.
And it even works in their local languages.
So it's like having an agricultural expert like in your pocket.
Exactly.
No matter where you are or what language you speak.
Right.
Isn't that? Because it's bridging the digital divide and giving farmers access to information.
Totally. And we're seeing similar applications in other areas, too.
Yeah.
Like in the media and entertainment industry.
Okay.
Generative AI is being used to make personalized content, translate languages, and even make those super realistic special effects.
So from Bollywood blockbusters to like personalized news feeds.
Yeah.
This tech is really changing how we consume and create content. It's almost like magic.
Right.
But I'm sure there's a lot of complex technology going on behind the scenes.
Oh, there definitely is.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is you don't have to be a programmer to use it. Like Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, he thinks that this is making technology accessible to everyone, making it possible for anyone to be a creator.
I remember reading that quote in an NDII article.
Oh, yeah.
He basically said, everyone can be a programmer now.
It's a bold statement.
Yeah, it is. But with these models, it feels like it could be true.
It really does feel like a paradigm shift.
It does.
Imagine just describing the website you want to build and the AI just generates the code for you.
That's wild.
Right.
But that brings up a big question.
Yeah.
If anyone can create anything with AI, what happens to jobs?
Right.
Will robots take over everything?
Well, it's a valid concern.
It is.
Reports from Goldman Sachs and the World Economic Forum say that generative AI could affect hundreds of millions of jobs worldwide.
Wow.
But it's important to remember that technology has always disrupted the job market.
Okay, so it's not a new thing.
Right.
But this feels different somehow.
Yeah.
The speed of the changes.
It is fast.
And just how much these models can do.
It is different in scale and scope. You're right about that. But even though some tasks might be automated, there will be new roles that emerge.
Okay.
Think about the people who will need to train and manage these AI systems to make sure that they are being used ethically and responsibly.
Right, so it's not just about replacing jobs.
Exactly.
It's about creating new ones.
Exactly. And it's also about changing the jobs that we already have.
Okay.
Imagine a doctor who can use AI to analyze patient data and give more personalized diagnoses.
Wow.
The AI isn't replacing the doctor, it's just making them better at their job.
It's like giving humans a superpower.
Right.
But speaking of power, these models are also raising some serious ethical concerns.
Definitely.
The potential for misuse, for creating deepfakes, for spreading misinformation.
Yeah.
It's a little unsettling.
It's definitely a valid concern. We need to be really careful about how this technology is developed and used. The potential for harm is real.
It is.
And we need to have safeguards in place.
Okay, so we've covered the basics of generative AI.
Yeah.
The impact it's having on all these different industries. And we've even touched on some of the ethical questions.
Right.
So where do we go from here?
Well, I think it's time to dive into some specific examples of how these models are actually being used.
Yeah.
Both for good and for potentially harmful purposes.
Okay.
And we can also explore what's being done to reduce those risks and make sure this technology is used responsibly.
Sounds like a plan. Let's do it.
All right. Welcome back to our deep dive on generative AI. Before we get into more examples, I think it's worth asking, what does it actually mean to be creative?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, traditionally, we've thought of creativity as this human thing, right?
Exactly.
It's our ability to imagine, invent, express ourselves in original ways,
Exactly. And as these AI models are getting more and more advanced, they're really kind of challenging that idea,
It is interesting.
We're seeing them create art, compose music.
Wow.
Even write poetry that's almost impossible to tell apart from human-created stuff.
So are we on the verge of machines becoming the next Picasso or Mozart?
It's a fascinating question, isn't it?
It is a little unnerving too, right?
It is, and it really raises some fundamental questions about what is art? What is creativity even? You know?
Yeah.
If a machine can create something beautiful or moving, does it matter that it doesn't have the same consciousness or emotions as a human?
That's a really tough one. I mean, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that an AI can write a sonnet.
Right.
With perfect rhyme and meter. It's impressive for sure. But does it have soul?
Right.
Does it make you feel the same way as a poem written by a human who poured their heart into it?
I think those are questions that philosophers and art critics are going to be debating for a long time.
For sure.
But for now, I think we just need to acknowledge that these models are pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible.
Yeah.
And they're making us rethink what it means to be creative.
It's like AI is holding up a mirror to our own creative process,
Totally.
Making us question what makes us unique.
Right, and it's not just about art either.
Right.
This technology is having an impact on every industry.
It really is.
From healthcare to manufacturing to education.
So let's talk about those real-world applications.
Okay.
I'm really interested in how generative AI is being used to solve these really complex problems.
Yeah. Well, one area where we're seeing huge progress is in drug discovery.
Okay.
Traditionally, developing new drugs has been this long, expensive process.
Yeah, it takes forever.
Years and billions of dollars to bring a single drug to market.
It's crazy.
But with generative AI,
Yeah.
researchers can now use models to simulate and test millions of potential drug candidates in a virtual environment.
So it's like speeding up evolution. Testing all these possibilities to find the best solutions.
Exactly. And this is leading to some amazing breakthroughs in treating diseases.
Wow.
That we thought were incurable before.
That's incredible. It's like science fiction coming to life.
It really is.
What about other fields? Are there examples of generative AI being used to tackle environmental challenges, for example?
Absolutely. Researchers are using these models to optimize renewable energy systems,
Okay.
to design more sustainable materials, and even to predict and mitigate the effects of climate change.
So AI could play a big role in creating a more sustainable future.
It really could. But of course, like any powerful tool,
Yeah, there's two sides to it.
it can be used for good or for bad. And that brings us back to those ethical considerations we talked about earlier.
Right. The potential for misuse is a big worry.
It is.
We've all heard about deep fakes and how they can be used to spread misinformation and create chaos.
Yeah, it's a serious issue. Imagine a world where you can't trust anything you see or hear online because it could be a deep fake created to manipulate you.
Right. It's a scary thought. And it feels like we're already seeing this happening.
Unfortunately.
Deep fakes being used in political campaigns and even to harass people.
And as these models become more sophisticated, it's going to get harder and harder to tell what's real and what's fake.
So what can we do? How do we address this potential for harm while still taking advantage of this amazing potential of generative AI?
It's a tough challenge on the technical side.
Yeah.
Researchers are developing tools to detect deepfakes and other synthetic media, but technology alone isn't enough.
Right. We need a combination of technical solutions and ethical guidelines and just public awareness to navigate this new landscape.
Exactly. We need to educate ourselves about the risks.
Yeah.
Think critically about the information we consume and hold the people who create and use this technology accountable.
It's like a collective responsibility we all need to be involved in shaping the future of AI.
Exactly. And that includes having these open and honest conversations about the benefits and the risks, like the one we're having right now.
Absolutely. This deep dive has been so insightful so far.
Yeah.
We've explored the creative potential of generative AI, the real-world applications, the ethical challenges.
Yeah.
So what's next on our list?
Well, I think it's time to look at some specific examples of how these models are being used across different industries.
Okay.
We'll see some success stories, but also some cautionary tales to really understand how complex this technology is.
That sounds fascinating. Let's do it.
All right.
All right. So we've talked about the big picture of generative AI, the creative potential, the real-world applications, the ethical kind of balancing act. Now let's get into some specifics.
Okay.
What are some examples that really show how this technology is being used in different areas?
Well, let's start with something close to home.
Okay.
Here in India, the entertainment industry is really excited about how generative AI can personalize content.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine watching a movie where the characters are speaking in your local dialect, even if the original film was in a totally different language.
That's amazing.
That's the kind of thing we're talking about.
It would make content so much more accessible, to a wider audience. It's like breaking down those language barriers with AI.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just dubbing.
Okay.
Think about personalized soundtracks that change based on your mood.
Wow.
Or your preferences as you're watching a film.
That's crazy.
Or even generating unique special effects just for you.
That's taking immersive entertainment to a whole new level.
Right.
It's like the AI is a co-creator making an experience that's just for you.
Exactly. And this whole personalization thing isn't just limited to entertainment.
Right.
In e-commerce, companies are using AI to create those personalized product recommendations, like those virtual fashion assistants that suggest outfits for you.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
Based on your style and your body type.
Yeah.
And even tools that can design clothes.
Wow.
Based on your measurements and what you like.
It's like having a personal stylist and a tailor.
Right.
All powered by AI. That's a whole shopping revolution.
It really is, and these models are also making a big impact on the world of design.
Okay.
Architects are using AI to come up with innovative building designs.
It's interesting.
They're both beautiful and structurally sound.
Wow.
And product designers are using AI to create things that are ergonomic and functional and really well suited for manufacturing.
It's like AI is becoming the ultimate design partner.
Exactly.
Pushing the boundaries of what's possible in terms of creativity and practicality.
And that's what I find so exciting about generative AI.
Yeah.
It's not about replacing human creativity.
Right.
It's about enhancing it, giving us these tools that can make us even more creative.
It's like giving us superpowers.
Right.
But like with any superpower, there's always the risk of misuse.
Yeah, that's true.
We've talked about deepfakes and misinformation.
Right.
But what are some other ethical dilemmas we need to keep in mind?
Well, one area that's really tricky is this whole question of content ownership. You know, if an AI generates a piece of music or a painting, who owns the copyright?
That's a good question.
Is it the person who created the AI?
Mm-hmm.
The person who gave it the instructions? Or does the AI itself have some kind of ownership?
That's a tough one. It's like uncharted territory legally and ethically.
Yeah, it is. And these questions are only going to get more complicated as AI-generated content becomes more common.
I can see that happening.
And there are also worries about bias creeping into these models.
Right.
You know, if the data used to train the AI is skewed or reflects existing societal biases,
Yeah.
then the output of the AI is going to be biased too.
It's like that old saying, garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly.
The AI is only as good as the data it learns from.
Right. So how do we make sure that these models are being developed and used responsibly?
Yeah. What kind of safeguards do we need?
Well, transparency is key.
Okay.
We need to understand how these models work,
Yeah.
what data they're trained on,
Mm-hmm.
and what biases they might have.
So it's about
And-
like lifting the hood and making sure everything's ethical and fair.
Exactly. And we also need some clear guidelines and regulations
Okay.
about how to use this technology, especially in sensitive areas like healthcare, law enforcement, and education.
So like setting up rules of the road for the AI age.
Right, making sure this powerful technology is used for good
Exactly.
and not for harm.
And ultimately, I think it comes down to education and awareness.
I agree.
We need to learn about the capabilities and the limitations of AI so we can make smart decisions about how we use it and how we let it shape our world.
It's like we're all explorers in this new frontier,
Yeah.
navigating uncharted territory.
This deep dive has been an incredible journey,
It has.
helping us understand the landscape, the possibilities, the challenges.
I agree. It's complex and it's changing so fast.
It is,
But it's full of promise and also some potential dangers.
for sure.
And I think by having these conversations, by asking the hard questions, and by working together to shape the future of AI,
Yeah,
we can harness this power for good
absolutely.
and create a world where technology serves humanity.
Well said. It's been a fascinating look at generative AI,
Yeah.
and I hope it's inspired you to learn more and to join these important conversations about the role of AI in our world.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been great having you.
We'll keep exploring this exciting world of AI and bring you more insights.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
Until next time.